Hello friends, kind strangers, assorted creatures, welcome to the Demiurge Diaries. We're gonna need to strike a pact here. This episode will start with me reading you a quote, and I'm not gonna tell you who it's from, you can't look up who it's from, and I don't want you to leave comments about it if you know, okay? I'm gonna tell you in a later episode. We'll get there. But for now, this is gonna be our little secret, okay? Don't look up who the quote's from. Good. Philosophy, in its longing to rationalize, formalize, define, delimit, to terminate enigma and uncertainty, to cooperate wholeheartedly with the police, is nihilistic in the ultimate sense, in that it strives for the immobile perfection of death. But creativity cannot be brought to an end that is compatible with power, for unless life is extinguished, control must inevitably break down. We possess art lest we perish of the truth. To conclude is not merely erroneous, but ugly. Pretty good shit. You know, occasionally I'm accused of engaging in media analysis on this show, and I can't deny the charge as easily as I usually do. This will be a journey. We'll learn about Baudrillard's idea of obscenity, read some Pynchon, talk about art and art discussion, especially on YouTube, and then, standing upon a thoroughly pretentious foundation, I'm gonna call a bunch of things porn and insist that knowing stuff is dumb, actually. As always, I mean every word I say, I promise. In Dr. Sam Sloat's introduction to Finnegan's Wake, a book which I somehow always inevitably bring up, and which is, for the uninitiated, a glorious magnum opus of mostly misspellings, of mostly non-English, arranged into esoteric puns and meta-clustered into sing-song trance-like fugue states of parapolylogic language, resolving into many agreed-upon story fragments, but no agreed-upon overarching meaning. This book is dense, beautiful, and utterly incomprehensible in the best possible sense, pulling tricks like using the initials of characters as the initials of phrases in order to refer to them without naming them. So it's a bit odd that Sloat not only tells us not to take a reference work to hand for our first read, but also to not treat the text as just a riddle, ridden with countless smaller riddles to be deciphered and decoded. It's supposed to be immersion learning. You're supposed to pick up this new alphabet by reading it. The confusion is the point. Let it wash over you and stew in it. You'll make your own meaning. Some of it will overlap with others and some won't. That's fine. This isn't a book you can get. It's not about getting. It's art. Is it beautiful? Does it speak to you? Then there you go. Finnegan's Wake is special because it's utterly impervious to payoff, or rather, modern media is fucked because it consists of barely anything but payoff. Vanya, a minor character in Gravity's Rainbow, has this to say. Look at the forms of capitalist expression, pornographies of love, erotic love, Christian love, boy and his dog, pornographies of sunset, pornographies of killing, pornographies of deduction. Ah, that sigh where we guess the murderer, all these novels, these films, these songs they lull us with, their approaches, more comfortable and less so, to that absolute comfort, the self-induced orgasm. Tropes. Perfection of an idea, no longer veiled through artistry and subtle implication, but shoved in your face outright. Nothing left up to the imagination, no tantalizing uncertainty gnawing at your bones. Pornographic media doesn't merely lift the skirt, it outright drops it. Build up, pay off, pack up boys, we're done here. But what if it's not pornography yet? Well, no need to worry, our media landscape has you covered. Because what good is beautiful art if you can't get parentheses off to end parentheses it? Great job, dude, writing a joke that super only works in writing and not at all spoken. Can you tell I'm not used to this? A lot of media analysis is exactly that. It pornographizes art which is not yet porn by figuratively strip-searching it, zooming in on the highlights, the erogenous zones, lifting up the artistic semiotic veil and making sure that you get it, that you get a series of densely clustered payoffs which were hidden in the piece, seductively hinted at, but never just outright shown to you. Sometimes people tell me that they only consume analysis, and that scares me. This is obscene in the Baudrillardian sense. The obscene is the destruction of the scene, the abolition of the frame and the lens. The scene is the real which defies the hyperreal, the hidden, the repressed, the obscure, while obscenity is that which eliminates the gaze, the image and every representation. It's the visible, the all too visible, the more visible than visible, the unfiltered, excessive absolute, or, to stick with our metaphor, the compulsive skirt lift. And just to be clear, porn is fine. That sigh where we guess the murderer as much as the next guy. The problem arises when you start turning everything into porn, and in turn create a culture which judges all art by how successfully it manages to be porn. Since there's already so much porn being made, and maybe just through some idiosyncrasy of my own character, I'd prefer to fight my way onto Joyce's side and be anti-payoff, scene-aligned, which gets us back to the analysis question. What have I been doing to Network, ℙ0r and Twilight? But also, what have I been doing with my own articles? Are they not pornographies of self, or at the very least of Sunset? Well, I don't think so. For my articles, they are certainly too coded and obtuse to be obscene themselves. Otherwise, people wouldn't be asking me to do the pornographizing for them so much. I still feel bad about what I did to the Anarch's Guide in ℙ0r, and I didn't even lift the skirt halfway there. You'll have to do the remaining work yourself. The articles pornographize something else, they do attempt to butcher open a concept, to use that phrase again, and yes, butchering open and pornographizing are the same thing, but unlike most analysis, they come with their own artistic frustrations, the hidden, the repressed, the obscure, the scene. The skirt-lifting apparatuses I built have their own skirts. As for ℙ0r, it does not have that benefit. I'm being clear and explaining my metaphors, for better and mostly for worse, but remember the first and fourth tenet of this show. Look at the lens, I sure hope you like the lens, and please let me interpret media wrong, it's literally all I want. Pretty much everyone would be disagreeing with me about the takes I've been giving you, about Network, about ℙ0r, about Twilight. They are my honest thoughts, but they're in all likelihood not what you would find under the skirt if you lifted it yourself. Not even close. I've been upfront about this, you know you can't trust me to tell you what you'd find under there. I'm telling you much more about the lens than about the thing in front of it. There is no payoff-attuned, stripped-down concrete object. It's anti-obscene in the Baudrillardian sense. It's only the scene, only the lens, only the distortion, only the skirt, if you will. It's skirt all the way down, tantalizing potentiality you'll have to fucking dig at yourself. Pick a bone, any bone, and start working. What I'm taking offense with, in a way, is the very idea that art can have a true meaning. Authorial despotism is out on obvious grounds, consensus is out because examples like Finnegan's Wake are clearly art without anyone being able to agree what they mean. Remember the weathered statues? They clearly communicate something very different from what a brand new version would. That's what Ozymandias is about. So, in some sense, they would have to be a different work of art if they mean something different, right? So, who made the second one? Obviously not from scratch, but transformatively. Was it time? What does time mean when it does something? If art is precisely this process of creating meaning in the interaction between a consciousness and an object, then how could the skirt ever be fully lifted on your behalf? The pornographic payoff is inherently a lie. It places a period in an unending sentence, concludes erroneously to let you leave fully satisfied, when the experience of art is that it sticks with you until it becomes you. The more interesting question, I guess, is, why would I want this? And the honest answer is, you might not. We're crashing against another controversial bit of personal philosophy, but I think questions are better than answers. It feels like most people either disagree or are so far from framing it in these terms that I can't convince them that we're already on the same side. The common understanding is that questions are a pragmatic means to get answers and get happy. Note the similarity to build-up, payoff. My experience is different. The question is the good bit. Thinking and puzzling and trying is an infinitely rewarding activity, and when you find the solution, there's first and foremost a feeling of sadness. My toy just broke. This isn't at all an issue, and it doesn't mean that one should strive to remain ignorant, as my detractors have uncharitably claimed. Answers, in almost all cases, throw up more questions. The game isn't zero-sum. The more someone knows, the more questions they will usually have. So we can construct it the other way around, and say that answers are a pragmatic means towards new puzzles, towards greater and more profound unknowing. I feel like I can see this idea reflected in culture more broadly. People love puzzles, riddles, crosswords, and Sudoku, challenges which have no useful answer. It's not like scientific research where the solution could conceivably be the genuine point. I have yet to meet anyone who actually dislikes the literary trope of being promised answers and then only getting a whole bunch of new questions. It's exciting. The thinking and figuring out is the fun part, and once you have the solution, you don't care anymore. You move on to the next riddle, so I seek to provide confusion, veils, not as well as Joyce, mind you, but well enough to give readers something to think about. There's a thing called the Zeigarnik effect. It describes the tendency of people to be way better at remembering unfinished patterns than complete patterns. That's why earworms are more persistent when you can't quite recall the next line, stuck on a loop as your mind tries to crack the riddle. We love questions. Once they're dead, once the toy breaks, there's nothing left to think about. A person's favorite work of art is almost never one they can fully explain. If you can trap that sublime appreciation in a prison of words to render it obscene, then it can't have been all that deep, now can it? There's always something implacable tearing at your soul, perpetually escaping analysis, so it can remain Zeigarnik stuck to the forefront of your mind. I always inevitably bring up Finnegan's Wake. None of the patterns ever fully resolve, no matter how much unbridled apophenia you throw at it. It's the question that keeps on giving. Skirts all the way down.